Welcome back, warriors.
Woo!
We are excited that you've joined us again today.
Mm-hmm.
And you are going to be excited because we have just the most incredible guest for you all today.
Yes.
Just one of the best of the guests.
Yep.
Yeah, she's incredible. And we cannot wait for you to meet her and hear about her journey. Her name is Becky Fontaine. And before Abby hops into her recap, let me let you all know a little bit about who Becky is. Becky Fontaine is a mother, a musician, a self-professed trauma alchemist, and a joyful dichotomy of wants to be in bed reading in silence and wants to be on stage giving it her all. She is a survivor of parental loss and intimate partner violence and is working every day to reframe her life experiences into pieces of her own personal triumph. I mean, we talked in the episode about how obsessed we were with this bio. You had mentioned it and I didn't agree, but I didn't agree vocally on the episode, but man, this bio kicks ass.
But also the questionnaire. Like, you could just feel her vibe through it all.
Yes.
You're like, oh, she's fucking cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Fully authentic.
Yeah. And then she lived up to it too. Right.
Mhm.
Like, you could just like the way she writes and then the way she speaks. And you're like, wow, I want to be her friend by sitting in a quiet room wearing a weighted blanket and everyone reads.
And everyone just reads to themselves with some separation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a dream.
All right, Abby, let's hear about this chat.
Yeah. So, like we've already both said, Becky's amazing. You're going to fall in love with her and you're then going to go follow her on tour. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But so Becky starts out by sharing how anxiety is the longest relationship that she's had in her life. And basically every memory she's ever had, she notices anxiety in those memories. She shares how a lot of anxiety for her shows up as scanning for exits, really just to get out of situations in order to keep her safe. We touch on grief and how when she was younger, she was experiencing grief, but we weren't educated enough on how to navigate grief as kids or adults, and how at a young age she thought that she had won grief, and she was even praised as a prodigy for grief, and later on realized that no, people don't win grief, and that it can show up and cause a lot more anxiety if it's not dealt with. Becky really talks about how even now knowing about anxiety, it's a constant work in progress, especially because anxiety is a shapeshifter. And so you have to be a little bit more clever than anxiety to catch it when it's changing its shape. She just ends with beautiful advice about taking up space. But I'm not going to ruin it because you all got to just hear it from her mouth, her voice.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just an honor connecting with her. Like,
truly.
Yeah, she's amazing. And, this conversation is going to stick with me for a long time.
Same. And we know it's going to stick with you too, warriors. So without further ado, here's the show. Welcome, warriors.
Yay.
We are so excited that you're back with us today. We are joined by a fabulous guest. Becky, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Yay. I just have to say, so like, this is my first time meeting you. But I've been super excited for this episode just based on the way you answered your questions. Like, I was like, this person is so cool, right? And so,
I have bad news. Pressure, I'm not that cool.
I would have to hard disagree. I don't know. I have to hard disagree. I mean, lead vocalist of a band, like, I mean, that alone is a kind of cool factor that Abby and I will never understand.
No.
Just ever.
No. We'll dream about. We'll wish we could understand it.
Yeah, we do a lot of singing on this podcast, a lot of bad singing. But anyway, we're so excited to welcome a fellow warrior into our little weird orbit here. And so we're going to just dive right in. So just share with our listeners how anxiety has shown up in your life.
So anxiety is unfortunately the longest friend or longest relationship I've had in my life. I just turned 45 and I think it shows up in, in every memory that I can kind of come up with. Like I had a marker of trauma very early in my life, and everything since then has been very filled with, a lot of the tendrils that come from trauma, right? So
Yeah.
now it kind of shows up as being the thing that makes me look for an exit strategy in every location, physically, mentally, how do I get out of this situation? That is like the marking stone of how anxiety shows up in my life. It's I need an exit strategy. I'm unsafe.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Oh, I mean, everything you're saying, I just have chills. Like,
Same.
I so feel, like I feel what you're saying. And also, I really appreciate the way you put it, right? Like, anxiety is my longest relationship. I was like, I think it's mine too, right? Like, and then I started just thinking about like how the relationship has changed over the years, right? Or that exit strategy, like, I won't even, but I just felt that. I'm still feeling it. I still have chills when you say that, right? Like I so relate. I guess like my first question in this is, so you're either a cusper or you're an older millennial like us, right?
So I was born in 78, just turned 45 2 weeks ago. A week ago? I don't even remember. That's where I'm at in life.
Belated.
Yeah, happy belated.
What is time?
Exactly.
So we were born 82. So we're right around that.
Yep.
And so, growing up, like trauma wasn't barely a word, right? Like you would hear about it once in a while, but even then no one understood it, right?
Yeah.
And even Margot and I have talked a lot about anxiety not being an emotion or a thing. And and so my question is, when did you realize that what happened in your childhood has something that then became a part of you all through your life? Like when we're like, oh, this is connected and this is anxiety that stems from this.
Yeah. It's funny because it was not an immediate realization, right? Like, so I experienced loss at 13. My father died in a plane crash. And so as a 13-year-old, like you're still like, wait, people can just not be there one day. Like that is, it wasn't like, he had a sickness and we had time to prepare. It's like one day he was there and then he wasn't. And I remember attending a lot of like group therapy sessions. My mom and my brother and I attended at a program that was local to us. And somehow along the lines, I became somebody who was involved in providing counseling services to children younger than me through this program. So me being who I am, it was like I wanted to win bereavement. It was I could be good. I could get good at this. Like I could do it so well that I could help other people in their grief. And so in doing that, I skipped a lot of the process that I needed to heal, right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of glossed over it. Like I was in the newspaper as like they did a little thing on me as like a child prodigy in grief, which sounds cool, right? Until you realize, wow, that's actually fucked up.
Yeah.
Stop, I can't believe they did that. Yeah.
It's like, look at this child who is taking the weight of all these other children's stress and trauma from it's like, what?
Yeah. So wow. Like I think about 5 years had gone by and I was 18, maybe 19. And I remember I hit a wall where I just couldn't function. I couldn't communicate with people. I couldn't get out of bed. I couldn't shower. And it was like I had just slammed into a wall. And I remember my mother asking me, like, what is wrong with you? And I just broke. And so that was the first time that I actually started receiving like one-on-one therapeutic services, worked with a psychiatrist and a psychologist. And so those words were introduced to me in that time frame.
And you said you were 18. I'm sorry.
Yeah. It was like, it was right. It was either 18 or 19. It was right in there. Probably somewhere smack between the two. So, I had gone 5 years without really addressing anything. And then it was like, surprise, you're going to deal now.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's where the introduction of the terms or what I was feeling kind of came in. And I have that comorbidity of depression and anxiety. And with other kind of traumas that I have experienced in life, those things have kind of ebbed and flowed together.
Yeah. I was curious when you started labeling some of the symptoms. We've had guests talk about depression and anxiety, or just depression, or, depression at this stage of their life, more anxiety in a different stage of their life,
Yeah.
or, vice versa. And so I was going to follow up, and if you were comfortable saying like, hey, was that diagnosis of depression or was it something else? But you just answered that for me.
Both.
But
Yeah.
both. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
I just have another question, because
Yeah.
I'm so I lost a parent as well, but I lost my parent in my 30s, right? I lost my dad in my 30s to cancer. So very different experience, right? But I understand grief in that sense. And it's so heavy and it's so complicated. And so I'm just really curious, like, I get that at 13, it's like, wait, I can help others, right? Oh,
Yeah.
I did my thing. I'm okay.
Yeah.
I don't really
Yeah.
understand grief, because no one in the 80s and 90s really understood grief too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But like, so my question is, do you feel like you kind of carried other children's trauma too? Like, do you think that was part of like the wall by the time you're 18, is like holding all these other people's grief stories as well?
I think so. And I think it became this weird thing where I was holding their pain instead of my own, because of the nature of the trauma I experienced. Like, with his accident, I didn't have like a traditional kind of funeral and burial experience. So there wasn't a lot of closure that I was able to have and process for myself. And I think even just the suddenness of it, my young undeveloped brain had a hard time really understanding like what that meant. I knew that my father died. I knew that there was a terrible accident. I knew these things. I knew that we buried him, but like, what does that mean in the middle? Like, there's even with like the investigation into the accident, like that took a couple of years. So it just extended the time that it took to get closure. That I think in the meantime, I was like just focusing on other people's, like how I could help them, or how I could not ignore my own pain, but just put mine to the side to help other people through theirs.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially getting praised as like this prodigy, right? It's like, look how strong I am.
I'm doing great.
Yeah. Right.
Oh man.
Gold star.
Gold star, right? It's just it's the pressure that it's bad enough when I'll speak for me. I put enough pressure, right, on ourselves in any stage of life, but especially around that age. And you're learning so much about the world, and you're questioning so much about the world at that age too, that to not have the ability to fully grieve yourself and learn what is grief, B, how can I navigate this for myself before I mean, I hate to laugh, and excuse me if I don't want to, I hope I'm not being offensive when I do.
No,
it's just, it's so ludicrous to me that you were asked to support children as a child. Like that is, it actually brings tears to my eyes. It's very frustrating to hear. I can't even imagine maybe layers of resentment. Like, I'm curious if there was any of that, when you talked about hitting that wall. So what was the experience, other than some of those physical manifestations that you were mentioning, like of more of just the emotional side? And if it's too triggering to talk about, just tell me. It's fine.
You're good.
We can move on. But I'm just curious, like, speaking from like the emotion standpoint, what was going through your mind?
Yeah, I think, like I talked about, like at that age, it doesn't even really register to you that like death is a real tangible thing. Like, it could happen, but it happens to your 90-year-old grandparent. It doesn't happen to your 32-year-old father. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in that time, it was like death was not a possibility. And then it was a reality. And then it was like, okay, I need to kind of figure out how to navigate this. But emotionally, it didn't really set in. And I think even there are days now where I'm like, oh my God, like I think last year around this time, I had to call my friend over because I was circling my house in a panic attack. Like I couldn't stop moving. I'm like, oh my God, everybody I know is going to die one day and I don't know when, and I can't stop it. And oh my God, how do I function with that? So I start cleaning the house. Like, here's what I can do. Like, so like it's this thing that kind of comes in and out. And I don't know if it's because it was never processed properly in the beginning, or if that's just the nature of the anxiety beast. Like, there is no rhyme or reason.
Right.
Yes.
Asshole. It just does what it does.
Yeah.
Yes.
It just shows up and then makes you afraid of losing everything. And then telling you, oh, but you can control your silverware drawer.
Like, so go clean that. Go clean that out real quick.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh my, I love that last thing you said, which was just like, there is no rhyme or reason sometimes, especially for us warriors. There is sometimes we can't explain away a feeling, an experience, something that we're navigating. Even if we have, sometimes I feel like I still have no idea that it's anxiety until 20 minutes later, and I'm start to calm down. I'm like, oh
yeah,
that thing was going on 20 minutes ago. That was just my good old friend anxiety, right? Just rearing her ugly head. But talk to us a little bit more if you can, and you can sort of speak to young you versus like more recent years you, about how anxiety shows up in you, like physically.
Yeah.
So like we've had people talk about like nail biting or like, things like pulling out their
sweating.
hair. Yeah. Right. And so like, what are some of the physical manifestations in like your mind, body, or behaviors?
Yeah. So, I mean, I imagine, I'm not speaking for everyone who has anxiety, but I imagine for most of us, it is a very somatic or like, body centric thing. For me, it is definitely that. It's a feeling in my stomach. It's a feeling in my chest. It's me going catatonic on the couch because I can't bear to get to the bathtub where I know I'll feel better if I can float. But the thought of walking 10 steps to it is like devastating. It's days where I don't want to wear my own skin anymore. Like, everything's touching me. Make it stop touching me.
Wow.
So, it's all very kind of all over the place, but I think that the places that shows up most often is, like I said, in my chest. In like if I feel a panic coming on, it's a cold sensation in my face. It's my stomach. It's my sleep being completely disrupted. Like, I don't think I have gone to bed without some sort of sleeping aid for probably close to 5 years now. I'm unable to sleep on my own. It's just, there are nightmares, there are night terrors, evenings are very hard for me. Like, when the sun goes down, that's when everything kind of kicks into overdrive. So I generally try to put myself to sleep at an hour before that happens. So I make no apologies about being in bed by 9.
Yes.
I'm out. Me and my weighted blanket and my sound soothing noises and my fans, like, we're in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I so feel so much. I wish I was in bed at 9. Like, I'm envious.
You can do that. You're a grown up.
I have dogs, and my dogs like to do their final potty at 10. And I would rather go to bed at 10 than wake up at 6. Right. True. So it's like a trade-off. Like, know. That's but I envy you, and one day I hope to be in bed at 9. But when you were painting the picture of when you're just like so uncomfortable and the thing that will help, and yet you can't even take the steps to get there, like, I am there with you.
It's hard.
And it's hard because you can even see it. You're like, I know I should do this thing. Why aren't I doing this thing? Just do this. Right. And so there's like the wanting to do the thing, but not wanting to do the thing. And then the overthinking of, and I was like, the way you painted it, I was like, that part is so exhausting about anxiety. Like,
And then the shame you feel for not doing the thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then when you finally do it, you're like, why didn't I do it earlier?
Yeah.
What a cycle. What a cycle it is.
It's so fun being a person, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Oh man. I can very much relate to, and I had to like process it, and I'm still processing it. When you said that you like something, and now I'm going to fuck it up, but it was like, I want to be out of my skin. Like, everything's touching me. I'm like, oh yeah. Like, I really felt that in my like somewhere in the depths of my soul.
Yeah.
And it's just because the world is so the world is so overstimulating.
It is.
Not just the clothes.
100%.
Yeah. It's not just the clothes we wear. It's all the sounds. It's all the sights. It's every sensor. I mean, maybe it's just, you know, a lot of us warriors also have sensory processing issues or auditory processing issues, ADHD, right? All of these external experiences make us want to jump out of our skin and be like, I'm so tired of being a person. What the fuck?
Yeah. Let me just take a break from the skin, peel it off for a bit. Let it chill out, let it settle down, cool off. Yeah.
I would love that. Like you could just unzip.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's a brilliant, I don't know. Someone should have come up with that. Some entity should have come up with that system. I don't, whatever you're, you know, but I really felt that moment. I feel like there's such a deep and raw honesty to everything that you've said so far, but I just want to validate that for some folks hearing that might be like, whoa, that's a lot, but not here. These are the people that are going to fully feel and appreciate that. And I'm just so grateful that you said it, because I think you, without me even knowing it, you validated something that I feel all the time. So thank you for sharing that. So what are some of the go-tos? What are some of the strategies? Talk to us. Like you mentioned, like, hey, if I could get to the tub and I could just float, maybe that helps, right? So when you notice that you're in the middle of an anxiety moment, or you're really in the thick of it, or maybe you even like feel it coming to the surface, what are some of the things that support you?
Yes. So I think that kind of comes back to the exit strategy, right? Like, I think there's a bit of a comfort in being self-aware to know when I'm at my limit and what I can do to get myself in like a window of tolerance. So if I'm at home, that does mean the bathtub. That does mean, you know, weighted blanket time. I've got one on the couch. I've got one on bed. In public, like have you guys ever heard of the Apollo band? No. Okay. So it's a wearable.
Oh, yes. Oh my God. Okay. After we hang up, you have to tell me way more, because I have seen this multiple times. I've been so curious about this.
I have had it for close to 3 years.
Oh my gosh.
Nonstop. I love it. So just like the vibrations kind of.
I want to know more about it now. Forget about after. Tell us about it right now.
Okay. So the Apollo is a wearable that you can use on your wrist. You can use it on your ankle. It also has a clip now, so you can like wear it inside your clothes. It didn't have all of that when I first got it. It was very new when I got it. It's a little bit costly, but they do have payment plans, and I will admit that that's how I obtained mine. But it's like a little rectangle that vibrates using sound wave patterns in different frequencies and different patterns. So when you get it, you download an app on your phone, and it has different options. Like if you need something like a rescue mode, like you are coming down off a big panic attack, it might vibrate a little bit more intensely just to remind you you're here, you're real, you're safe. Like, you know, it can be just like a rescue aid. But if you just are feeling a little off and you just want like a little bit of a reminder, it might tap in waves that are a little bit more gentle. So I wear this constantly. It tracks how many minutes. I don't have my phone within reach, but I could tell you like the number of minutes that it has vibrated for me, like it has gone through waves. It is one of my staples. I do recommend it.
Okay, I have a question.
Go.
Are you in control of how it vibrates, or is it monitoring you physiologically?
No, it does not. It keeps no biological information. Like you can say, I want to use like a calming one for yoga. I'm going to do yoga. So you could tap the yoga button in your app, and it'll initialize and do like, you know, breathing. Like it'll like simulate your breathing. Like it vibrates up and then vibrates down and up and down. So you are in control of how and when it vibrates. You can either turn it on yourself, like by tapping a mode, or if you're like me, sometimes I know certain parts of the day where my brain slides out or I get a little tired. 3 p.m. it just starts. It goes on a wake up mode. Like it has a
So
lot
it's
of
on
cool
right now, is what you're
functionality.
saying.
Yes. Basically. Nobody can
Wow.
hear it. You know,
Right.
it's not like it's not annoying like that. You can wear it while you sleep. Like you can program it to, like, if you find that like 1 o'clock in the morning, you tend to wake up with nightmares, you can program it for right before that, and it'll try to help keep you in your deep sleep.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so,
I'm
okay, so
breathing
is this tool, is it more of like an anchoring into helping you be more
Yes.
embodied and present? Is
Yes,
that
exactly.
okay?
Yes. Yep.
And it helps. All
It
right.
does help.
I got my review. I've been looking at this for
Yeah.
over a year now. And if you can't talk to people about it, you're like, is this real? You know?
No, it's real. It's real. And
It's
when we're
real.
done, I will look and I will screenshot to show you guys how many minutes I have utilized it since I've had it. And you're just going to be like, okay, yeah, she's really actually.
It's helpful.
Yes.
That is so cool. I love learning about new tools that I have never heard of before.
Mhm.
And so the fact that you've been looking at this for over a year and you and I have never had a conversation about it is also kind of telling. But
I
also
mean,
I'm not
how many
surprised that you were
different things have
perseverating
I
on it.
looked at?
Yeah.
You know, like, come on.
Also not shocked that you were perseverating on it for a year. Wow, that's so cool. That is, I love that it offers you something that is physical.
Yeah.
But that it actually winds up, right, like telling your body that you're safe, which is telling your
Yes.
mind that you're safe, right?
Yes. Yeah.
That's so brilliant. I love it.
I actually got it when I was in a phase where my anxiety was so bad that I would have to leave the grocery store because people would come up behind me with carts too fast, and my body would just shit out. You're in danger. They're going to hurt you, you know? And so I was like, all right, I'm a mess. I got to try something different. Like, I'm on my meds, like things are working, but they're also not. Like, what else can I try? And so I, on a whim, tried this after, like you said, like looking at it for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah. So glad I did.
Wow. Incredible.
Wow.
Okay.
And I feel that, like, when you gave the example of like the grocery store, like I feel that stuff, like it's just chronic and exhausting, but like on the outside we all look like people just going about their day in the grocery store, but on the inside it's like, you're too close to me.
Yeah. SOS.
Yeah. You
just want to like whip your cart around and like shove into their cart, like, back up. What are you doing so close to me?
Yeah. Why are you walking so fast?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's the thing, though. It goes back to like the rhyme or reason. It's just like something, like I had said to Abby, in like the last few months, I've been struggling in restaurants. This was never an issue that I had before, but like now my brain's sort of ready for it. And so it winds up inducing the anxiety before it even comes. Cause I'm like, oh no, I'm in a restaurant. Am I going to have a panic attack? Maybe.
Yeah.
Right. And it's just like, who knows why this is, I mean, if I had to try to guess, right, it's like, all right, it's probably just overstimulation. Who knows? It could be a million things, and sometimes at different points in our lives, we're going to be met with new things. So it's always great that someone like you, right, and someone like hopefully all of us are able to remember that we don't have to be stuck in our strategies. We can continue to find something new, something creative, something that may work, it may not. And then you try it and you move on if it's not helpful, you know?
Yeah.
All right. So if you could describe your relationship to anxiety, how would you describe it? Now, you kind of said it was your like first relationship. We've had a lot of folks lately give us like their Facebook status to their anxiety, which we thought is clever. So
obviously it's complicated,
helps.
right?
Yes.
Most of the warriors share that one. Yeah.
I mean, I would, if we're doing Facebook statuses, I would say it's complicated, but I would also say that it is a constant work in progress.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the work that I have been doing in therapy has, not made anxiety disappear, because I'm not naive to think that I'm just going to get rid of it one day and that's that. I think that it is shifted a lot, as my coping mechanisms have. And my kids think it's hilarious, by the way, that I can be somebody who can be so anxious and so messy and so overstimulated, but then be on stage. Like, they think that dichotomy is just ridiculous, which I agree it is. But it's also a testament to the shape-shifting of my anxiety, right? Like, it has become a partner of mine, but not the front runner of mine. And so I am able to ask it to step aside just for the 30 minutes that I'm on stage, because that does give me an opportunity to burn it out, similar as like a workout, but right before and right after, like right before I'm in my weighted blanket, right after you got an hour before I need to be in a quiet room by myself. Like, but 2 years ago, I could not have, or even 3, I could not have imagined being in a location with so much movement and noise. So it's interesting to see how things kind of shift and manifest, not even by year, by season. Like, hey, we're in seasonal depression season now, so like, look out, these things could kind of come back a little bit as we get less light. So yeah.
I really appreciate the way you talk about it being a shapeshifter. Because we've talked about anxiety in a few different ways. Like, I feel like I've used words like it's sneaky. Like sometimes it tells me like, I should be worried about something when like really I shouldn't. Right. But it's like, no, we're concerned. Right. Or like, and it takes a while to be like, no, anxiety, you're overreacting right now. This is not something we have to be concerned about. Or if we do, you don't have to overreact like this and drive me nuts during it. Right. Or sometimes it's just the subtle thing that like makes me want to like check out on my phone, or right. Like, I just love that you use the word shapeshifter, because it's so sneaky, and it sometimes wants to figure out new ways to be in relationship. Right. And if we're not like quick enough, we don't realize it's come on as a new shape.
Yeah.
Right. And so I love that language that you use, because I felt it so much in my relationship with anxiety. It's like, it's pretty clever.
Yeah.
Clever bitch, that anxiety.
Yeah. But I'm more clever.
Clever girl. Yeah. It's so funny because and Becky won't know this, but I call my anxiety Bertha. So like Bertha is just, she's my anxiety BFF, I guess. But she does show up differently, right? And it's like she's wearing different clothes, and she's more of a hot mess on some days and a little bit more like an organized lawyer on other days, like presenting her arguments to why I should be very upset about something or what worked up or whatever. And so like, I never really considered it like a shape. Like I love and I'm thinking of, is it Camilo from Encanto? Is it Camilo?
Yes.
Who shapeshifts? No.
Yeah.
It's
Camilo,
like right?
It's
Camilo. Yeah.
The Blob?
Yeah.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was if I had the right name or not.
I think it's the right name
for the kid anyway. But like I had that picture. It's like, oh yeah, it's like become this other thing within ourselves, and it does change moment to moment, season to season, year to year, and who knows? But I love it. It's complicated and it can shapeshift. It's so good. All right, so if you could step back in time and speak to a younger version of yourself, what kind of advice would you offer?
Life advice, I think I would want her to know that it is okay to take up space, and that you do not have to be perfect doing it. I think I am someone that is very open about my mental health journey. I feel like when I hold in my secrets, I get sicker. And so I'm constantly like using my social media to talk about where I'm at, whether that's like, I haven't been able to get off the couch in 4 days, or, hey, this is like the other day I was able to celebrate the 4-year anniversary of the day that I walked into an emergency room having unaliving thoughts and asked for help for myself. Like, that's like another birthday for me.
Yeah. Yes.
So I really think that the most important thing I could have taught myself, or I don't want to say I wish I would have learned earlier, because then you change your whole journey, but I would want little me to know that, she can take up space as messy as she is, and she belongs anywhere. So.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, so many chills.
I mean, I think everyone can relate to that, especially like anxiety does want to keep us small. Yeah. Anxiety doesn't want us to be like a target, whatever target that means. Right. And so it's so easy to like dim ourselves and shrink ourselves.
Yeah.
or the only time we can be seen is when it's perfect, right? Because
Yeah.
then we're safe.
Yeah.
Right.
And
But what's perfect, right? It's like, who's to
Right.
say what's perfect? Are you
Right.
deciding? Is the world deciding?
The newspaper is deciding when they highlight you as a prodigy. That's who's deciding.
When you're 13.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
That story's going to stick with me for a very long time.
You're welcome. You're
Yes,
welcome.
I know.
It's bizarre. It's so bizarre.
Think about now, like I have to catch myself now, like if I need to call, like my basement flooded not that long ago, and I needed to call services to get it cleaned up or check what was going on. It took me like 3 days to make the call because I didn't want to make the call not knowing what question to answer. I couldn't just call to ask a question or to not know. Like I had to know everything going in because I was afraid to feel stupid. Like that's one of the ways that my anxiety manifests. Like I don't want to look stupid.
Yeah.
Who gives a shit? Like you're not a plumber. You're not supposed to know. Just call and say there's water. Like come on.
Let them figure the rest out. Yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Margot and I recently had an episode that's very similar where we don't want to be an inconvenience. Right.
Yeah.
So part of me, like when I hear that plumber story is, I definitely don't want to look stupid. Like who wants to look stupid? Right. But also if I don't have the answers, then I'm inconveniencing them, even their job.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And round we go.
Yes.
It's so relatable. Honestly, everything you're saying is just completely, it's like, yep, check. Box checked. Yep. Sounds right. I think I shared to Instagram on our account last week. It was like for Halloween. It was like, oh, it's a haunted house, but it's just an empty room with a phone. And you have to make that appointment you've been putting off for like 6 weeks. I'm making it more wordy than it needs to be. That's my MO. But it was basically like that. And I was just like, I don't know what it is about making phone calls. I almost wish my mom I wish she had made me make phone calls as a kid.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like if I had to make my own appointments or schedule, maybe not little kid, but like maybe a teenager, I could have made some of my own appointments or whatever. Yeah. And now I have such fear. I need to like write down what I'm going to say. And it's a whole freaking production. It's crazy. Anyway, it's not crazy. It's anxiety.
Yes.
Okay. So final question before we get into some lightning round fun. Mm-hmm. What does being an anxiety warrior mean to you? When you hear this phrase, what comes up?
I feel like for me, it means that I am able to show up publicly, authentically, as messy as I am, and allow others to love me as I am or to see where I'm at presently so that they know how to interact with me, but also to model that you can be this while also being this. You can be messy and you can be on stage. You can be, messy and hate the way that your body looks and still put it out there for the world to see. Like I feel like being an anxiety warrior means that your vulnerability is something that is like a superpower for yourself and others.
Yeah. It's what we all have, right? We all have our own voice, our own unique story. It is the gift that we have to give to others.
Yeah.
And I mean, right, exactly. Modeling that. Like I have anxiety and yet I'm on a stage with all these eyes on me, right? Like that is a superpower. Like I have it and yet I can still do these things.
Yes. And so can you.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. If I can do it, you can do it. Right? Like,
right.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's about bringing people along with you.
Yeah.
Right. It's about bringing people along with you. So we all can remember that we're not alone in this.
Right.
Wow. Amazing. I know. I'm like, are we really nearing the end of our conversation?
I just want to hang out and hold each other with weighted blankets, Like, I'll have our own separate area.
Yeah. Very separate area.
We can sit in silence under our blankets.
I'll bring a good book. I can be quiet, Yeah. But I feel this. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your heart, your story, and so many insights into who you are, but also so many juicy little nuggets that our warriors can take away from listening to you. right? And that's always the goal, like we're saying here at the end, which is to bring people with us on our journeys, and being honest about it, being vulnerable about it, using our voices is the way to do that. So thank you so much for sharing all of that with us.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, it's time to get down in the mud now and play for a few minutes, because Abby and I are, again, we're endlessly uncool, and we like to do dorky things.
Cool dorks. I think I would give us.
I am definitely a cool dork, so we're all in good company here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
We own our dorkiness. That's cool enough, right there.
Okay. All right.
That's super cool.
Okay. Yes, you're right. You're right. We're very cool. I take it back. I'm so sorry.
Yeah. We're cool dorks.
How dare you?
We're very cool dorks. Okay. Fine. Forgive me, warriors. Okay. So here comes the official sting. Becky, are you ready for lightning round? Lightning. Okay. So Abby and I are going to go back and forth and just ask you a handful of fun, silly, get to know you type questions.
Okay.
You ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm
going to go first.
Okay.
So you mentioned in our first email exchange that you have tiny altars of comfort.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to hear, what is on these altars of comfort?
So any room that you go into in my house has like little collections of things. So usually that's like tactile items that I can just pick up and play with, or oils, or like sages, incenses that I can burn, like little collections of things that I go to for comfort. A lot of times there's like a page ripped out of a book there, something that I like to read, or a picture of my children, just little places, like no matter where I go in my home, that can center me, like the second I walk in. I've turned it off right now, but here in my living room, I always have a sound machine going on with water noise, so I never have to walk into a house that's dead silent, because I hate that. So everything here is very set up for like centering, no matter where you go.
I love it. And it sounds like joyful too, like pictures of your kids, or you know, something for a page from your book, right? Centering and also joyful.
Mm-hmm.
Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think of like Inception, right? When like Leonardo DiCaprio had that, his little like, what did he call it? Like a token or whatever, to like see if he was in this world or the other. I don't know. Anyway, but I love the idea of like sparking joy in every room of the house, because I feel like that's not necessarily something that folks might do, right? It's just like, maybe you have like your one room where most of your joy lives, but the rest of your home's kind of just like, it's just a kitchen and it's just a bathroom. But to have like a little something centering you in each room, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
I might have to do that. All right.
Yeah, I know. I like that. Okay. So you mentioned also that you are happiest on the road.
I am.
Okay.
I am.
So tell us like your top 2 to 3. I always hate saying like number 1 or favorite, right? Places that you've most enjoyed seeing while I'm assuming when it says happiest on the road, are you touring? Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So while touring, so not like you went off somewhere at some age and you traveled, like while touring, what are some of your most like favorite places you've been to?
Well, I can talk about places that may not seem like, anyway. So I have different answers for all of those. So recently we were in Gainesville, Florida, which doesn't sound like the top destination in the world, like which you would think of traveling, but the environment that was created there was something that was really special. It was like a punk festival that was 3 days, and the community that was there makes it something just out of this world. So that's definitely something that I would want to include. We are heading back to Europe this year, to mostly Germany, like we did last December. So there's a lot of spots there that were amazing in their own ways, just to be playing music in another country. I don't know that I would pick. I really liked the Netherlands at Christmas time. That was something that was really special. Berlin I enjoyed, just because it was something like I never thought in my life that I would be in Berlin, Germany, much less playing music. So there's I've had the opportunity to see a lot of cool places. And I feel like I'm just getting started on that. So maybe next year we check in and I'll have a new list for you.
I love it. And I love that Gainesville, Florida was included, right?
Yeah.
That's what I was
first
hoping.
one.
Something super random
That's
that like
random.
no one would think of, right?
Yeah. But
That's awesome. That is so cool. Adam told me you guys are big in Germany. I was like, that's so interesting.
yeah. Yeah.
So interesting. Okay, cool. All right, let's see. So let's stick on the road trip theme here.
Yeah.
So do you have a favorite road trip song or genre of music that is like your typical for when you're like on the road?
Yes. I would say genre of music more than anything, because being on the road is very chaotic. Like I do love and live in that chaos, but for somebody who's already sort of anxious and out of sorts, generally speaking, being on the road can be difficult because your stuff is never in one spot. You're not sleeping in the same spot all the time, or you're just kind of go. Your sleep schedule is wild. So when I'm traveling, especially, but even at home, but I tend to listen to like neoclassical and classical and like very soothing music that's not, driven by words or loud sounds. Like I like to keep myself centered on something that's very just chill. Very chill.
Amazing.
I
So
feel
if you
it.
see me in the grocery store with earphones on, that's
Yeah.
what I listen.
And don't talk to you. Let you enjoy the
please
music,
don't.
right?
Like this means no talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Should be very clear, people.
That was one of our other previous guests said too. Jesse talked about, if the earphones are in when I'm food shopping, just let it be.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna keep in the music theme. So
Okay.
I don't totally know this. So is your band punk? Is it okay? It's punk.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So this is like a two-part question. Okay. But what
Loophole.
is like a guilty pleasure song that is not punk, right? Like a guilty pleasure song that you're almost maybe embarrassed to admit that you would love to turn into like a punk vibe?
Okay. I love this question because I already know what I'm going to say, but
All
I will
right.
preface it by saying there are no guilty pleasures. There's just pleasures.
That's fair.
But
that's fair.
It's not really a secret in my band that I can sing almost every Amy Grant worship song from the 80s.
Oh my.
So, given free reign, I would love to turn one of those into a punk song just for my own amusement.
If you ever do, please send it our way.
I
Yeah.
will.
I mean, could you kind of just like sample it for us right now, though?
I don't know how to translate it into a punk song, but I can just sing Amy Grant.
Yes.
Give
We
us
love making people sing.
Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path.
Oh, oh my gosh. That was gorgeous.
Your voice is gorgeous.
I know.
I'm no Amy, but
no, you're
I
Becky.
mean, better maybe. Better. I'll put that out there. But anyway,
Wow.
I want the punk version.
Okay.
Let's please make that happen.
I'll let my bandmates know.
Yeah.
That's right. And dedicate it to us.
Okay.
Anxiety warriors,
Yes. Okay. Okay. My final question. I'm going to do a hard left turn and just ask you to share the weirdest food you've ever eaten.
All my food weirdness just came up. So it may not be weird to most people, but it's weird to me because texture. So I'm going there.
Okay.
I don't eat animal. Like I don't eat chicken or like meat because of the texture of it. Like trying to eat it weirds me out. So for me, it's going to be any of that, especially like chicken or turkey, because it just tastes very dry and sad. And so
Oh,
I can't.
Okay.
I feel you with that turkey, dry and sad. Like,
I'm sure it is. Yeah. You know what? We never know I never know how the answers to my questions are going to shape up. Sometimes we end on a really silly, funny note. Sometimes we're a little bit like, okay, well, damn. But and this is a little bit of both. Although, do you have one more question, Abby?
Yeah, I have one more
good.
question.
Oh, good. We're not going to end with sad, dry turkey.
I get to end on a non-sad, dry turkey note. Okay. So you actually, during the interview part, answered the lightning round question I had for you, right?
Okay.
And so I'm going to ask you and maybe that wasn't like your answer, right? But anyway, my question was going to be, because I appreciated that, although it's awful that they called you the prodigy child at 13 for holding other kids' grief, I appreciated that we all could kind of laugh at how absurd it was, right? And I feel like a lot of anxiety warriors, one of their superpowers is humor, is seeing lightness in the heaviness. And so I was going to ask you about another anxiety warrior superpower, and then you said vulnerability, and I was like, ugh. But I'm still going to stick with the question, right?
Yeah.
With the exception of vulnerability and humor, what would you say one of your anxiety warrior superpowers is?
Compassion.
Oh,
I
love how
sounds so like crunchy when I say it, but like I know what I'm going through just to get through every day. So like odds are somebody else is doing that. Like my best friend and bandmate lives 2 doors down from me, and we joke that like we have to trade off bad days because we can't both have bad days at the same time. Like, it's my day to be a mess. Like, could you just hold it for me, and then tomorrow you can be a mess? So I feel like people who are already, and this can be true for people who have chronic illness as well, like physical illness, like we know how much it takes for us to get through days, and so we're just kind of naturally predisposed to being empathetic to that in other people.
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful.
And also sad and dry turkey.
Yeah, I know, you got to end on that. That is
That's
superhero status
ending
right there.
I was gonna make like a thoughtful comment about Dr. Brene Brown, but no, we have to just scrap it. It's got to end on dry turkey.
I feel like my Halloween costume next year is going to be like a sad and dry turkey that also is compassionate, right? I'm going to be like a superhero sad dry turkey.
That'll be your anxiety warrior costume.
Yeah.
You'll just have to also wear a sash that says anxiety warrior turkey.
Yeah. Sad dry turkey. I am sad and dry.
That is also sad and dry. ... is also sad and dry. Oh my goodness. What a strange way to end our episode. Well, before we let you share with everyone how they can find you, how they can follow you on social, how they can come see your shows, connect with you, whatever you want to share, we love to ask all of our guests to share a win of the week, big or small. Doesn't have to be something, massive. It can be like getting a new job, or it can be as tiny as like you took a 20-minute nap yesterday and it felt amazing. And it doesn't have to have been from this week. It can be from recent times, something that felt like a win.
Yeah, I think I'm in a place of my complex trauma journey where I am regaining my power. And so there is a particular situation with a particular person that could have me just flat on my back right now, in catatonic in my anxiety and panic and sadness and grief. But I've noticed in the past couple of weeks that things that a couple of months ago would have just crushed me, I'm like it sucks, but I am feeling a lot stronger than I have ever in my life. And so I kind of feel like, even just turning 45 a couple weeks ago, I'm like, I'm just getting started. This is awesome. Let's go with the rest. What's next? So I've had a lot of those feelings in the last couple of weeks. That's been nice.
Those are huge. Those are really huge wins. Like noticing the shift.
Yeah.
And being able to say, I'm somewhat stronger than my former self.
Yeah.
Right. Beautiful. All right. Well, that's better than the sad dry turkey to end on. So tell our listeners how they can connect with you.
Sure. Like I've alluded to in this episode, I am definitely very open about my journey. That means I'm open to meeting new people who want to follow me and just kind of check in and create community with me. I love that. So you can find me on Instagram at becky.fontaine. On my profile there, you will find links for my band, the Iron Roses, and links to any place across the world that you can see me. But most importantly, just have, connecting with me means that you have a place to kind of let go, because that's what it is for me. So let's do that together.
Oh my gosh, everyone go follow Becky immediately.
Yes.
Thank you so much for
Yes.
being with us today. And
Thank you.
we love you.
Yeah.
I love you.
Yeah. We really do. Like, yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Hug the mic situation. This is wait, screen grab of this. This doesn't look weird at all.
You lived up to all of my expectations in that
thank
email.
God. I was worried.
All right. Thank you so much, Becky. Have a good one.
Yeah. Thank you.
You too.
Bye. You know, warriors, I feel like at the end of every interview, when I reflect on the episode, I think, wow, I really love that person. I really love that guest. And I feel genuine love for all of our guests. I don't know if I've said actually the words love you to very many of them, though, while they're on the episode with us.
Yeah.
And honestly, it just kind of fell out of my mouth because it felt so like normal and organic for me to share that in that moment. And I just feel such a warmth in my heart for Becky right now.
Same.
She just really showed us who she is in the best humanly way possible, in so much deep vulnerability and honesty, which is, I just feel lucky and blessed and grateful that she was with us and that she shared so many details about her experience.
Yeah.
You know, not just with anxiety, but with depression and grief and, you know, just so much. So I'm already on the struggle bus trying to figure out what I want to share.
I mean, I just want to say too, like, yeah, like she is so lovable and I totally felt the same way. Like, I just love her. Like, you know, it's like just a statement or a truth. Like, you know, like in that conversation, you're like, yes, like I wish she lived closer and we could hang out with her too. You know what I'm saying? Like, this was was this your first time meeting Becky?
Yeah.
Yeah. This was both our first times meeting Becky. And it just felt so connected. And like, I mean, like she said, like vulnerability is a superpower. And I think that's part of it is because we were all able to show our true selves with each other, even though we don't know each other. Right. And that brings about love. It really does. When you can be your authentic self with other people, you know, of course it's going to like evoke love unless your authentic self sucks and then it wouldn't. But, you know, like,
sure. Maybe your authentic self is dry, sad turkey.
Yeah. And then that's not going to evoke love for anyone. Evoke. Yeah. Yeah. Evoke. That's not going to bring love, right? If that's your authentic self. But for the three of us, like, I just feel like we were all vulnerable and honest and comfortable in the conversation that we could see past the layers of mud that have been thrown at us along the years and just see each other's, like, I'm not going to say soul, but you know what I mean? Like inner
humanity,
essence, like humanity. Yeah. And feel that love connection.
Yeah. All right. So you got anything?
Oh, I get to go first?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. I mean, one of the like, just, okay, well, there's like a 2-part takeaway. So my first takeaway, which is a 2-part, is first of all, she just explains things so perfectly, right? Like I totally relate to like stepping into a place and looking for the exit, right? Like I need to know that. But 1, I don't always do it consciously. And 2, I don't always like verbalize it. I think I verbalize it like 0.1% of the time when I'm doing it, even though it's happening. Right. And like I ask other people like, hey, do you look for the exit? Right. But the way that she just paints the pictures of stuff, I just totally resonated with. And a lot of times I got like chills or I just felt like this heart to heart connection. So this connects to my first takeaway, which is just, I loved when she talked about anxiety being a shapeshifter. Because again, I just think for a lot of people that don't like live chronically with anxiety, right? They just think it's like nervousness, right? Talking about as a shapeshifter really gives more context and language to the experience, right? Yep. And since all of us have our anxiety shapeshift differently, right? It shows up as overthinking. It shows up as not wanting to leave your bed and weighted blanket. You know, it shows up as scanning the room for the exit. It shows up as sweating. It shows up as, you know, needing to be perfect to be seen, right? It's always shape shifting, and the shape shifting, the way that it tries to like weasel into us, changes our behavior if we're not aware of it, right? And so I just really like the language of shapeshifter, and I think I'm going to try to like incorporate that more when I talk about anxiety, because I feel like it takes away how so many people want to define it as just like being afraid, right? Because it's not just being afraid, right?
Yeah.
It's so many more things. And so I just like my first takeaway is just really the appreciation of the language she used, and how the language she used really impacted the way that I heard her story and what she was saying. And it also made me feel more connected, because I was like, fuck yeah, anxiety is like a shapeshifter. And it even had me have more reflection on my own anxiety in the moment about all of the ways it shapeshifts. Because I say like sneaky, right? But it's more than that. It could be a sneaky shapeshifter. Try saying that 3 times fast. But it definitely shapeshifts, and you have to be more clever than it to really see when it's changed its shapes.
What I love about it too is that it adds like a visual element, especially for people that aren't, you know, experienced anxiety warriors as we are. It's just like, oh, okay, I can get my head around that as like in like a physical sense, as opposed to like it's just an emotion, or it's just a shift in our, you know, the energy, or a feeling. Like I like the visual add-on of like, or at least for me, because we know that we both think in pictures, right? And think in like, you know, external things that are part of our everyday life or part of our past or whatever. And so I'm able to connect to it better when I think of it as and how it relates to me, right? And so I feel like for all the warriors, hopefully you're able to take what she said about the fact that her anxiety shapeshifts and moves and becomes different things and changes all the time and is continuously evolving and has been throughout her life, and be able to recognize it as something that's true for them as well, right? And be able to use the phrase shapeshifter and create a visual around what that is in order to make it a little bit more real or tangible for folks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
I love it. So good. I think I really related to the exit strategy thing. I'm pretty sure that that was like a good part of one of my strategies for like, I think it wasn't our small talk episode, but it was something we were talking about, like networking. I feel like I was telling a story about a networking event, and I was like, my immediate was just to make sure I had a way out of here if and when it becomes intolerable for one reason or another.
Yeah.
And so I very much related to that moment as well. I just found her story around her experience with losing her dad at 13 in such a tragic way, and the trauma that came after it with not being able to process her own grief because she was labeled as this incredible prodigy of grief. And she was just like, I think she even said like she decided at that age that she was just going to win grief. And there was just so much to that entire situation, and listening to her share about that story, that I don't really have a takeaway. I guess my reflection is just that it's ridiculous to ask children to become parents or caregivers or therapists for other children. And B, what an incredible testament it is to the type of human being that she is, that even at 13, she felt called to help others. I mean, maybe some of it is just like, oh, if I can help other people process their grief, I don't have to face my own. But at that age, right? And it sounds like it's been a consistent truth for her through adulthood, to be able to say, hey, I'm not just doing this for me. I'm not just going to have to go through this for me. I'm doing it so I can bring people along, so I can hopefully help them too. And it's just so stark to me that she's just innately good in that way, right? To somebody who just cares for other people, even since that tender age, who having gone through so much intense trauma themselves, to be able to just be like, actually, I'm not alone in this. And I'm going to make sure in my 13-year-old brain and my 45-year-old brain, right, that I'm going to do what I can to bring people along with me
Yeah.
and lift them up and care for them and have compassion, as she said towards the end.
Yeah.
Love them, empathy. Right. So I think
Right.
that's my my main.
Yeah.
my
I
main
mean, it's her
takeaway. God, so
superpower
hard.
for sure.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to take my takeaway off of that one because that was something that also really stuck out. Like, first of all, I really appreciated talking about grief because grief and anxiety are really good friends too. Right. And
Yeah.
grief can change the way you sleep. Like, it can change your sleeping habits. And grief is also a shapeshifter. It's not just being sad. It's not. And so I really appreciated her sharing her experience with grief. But the part of the takeaway that I'll put, because otherwise I'll just say everything you said, right? Is just simply like how children navigate trauma, right? And how as adults we might be like, oh, they want to help others, or oh, right? And we need to really pause and ask, like, hey, are they processing? Are they right? Because that performance, that wanting to help others, that being honored for helping others, right, can cause a really nasty spiral loop. Like I remember when she was talking about that, it made me think about when my friend in high school, when her mom was dying from cancer, and we were in high school, right? She was like my best friend. And I remember feeling like whenever I went to the house, I had to perform and make people laugh. That was something that, like, if I didn't lighten the mood in some way, I felt like I was no use, right? And it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that that was my way of coping with this really challenging thing.
Right.
And so when she's talking about, like helping other children through grief and how the grown-ups view it as like, oh, she's so strong, or, oh, she's one grief, like whatever it is, I just feel like even now as grown-ups, when big things are happening with kids, let's really give kids the chance and not feel like they have to take on more responsibility for other people. Exactly. And that it's really okay to just take like responsibility for yourself, or ask for help, or process yourself, right? Like, because the helping others kind of, even as grownups, takes away from our ability to be with ourselves and companion ourselves. Right. And so it wasn't a well-formed takeaway, but I just know that that's what I was feeling hearing that, and then hearing you. It's like, let's just think about children.
Yes.
Right.
It all
and then
makes sense
grown-ups
to me.
too. Right. Like,
right. Exactly. It's just why let's give human beings space to experience what they are experiencing, right?
Yeah.
Without having to jump in and offer any kind of feedback, whether you think it's good or helpful or kind or whatever or not. It's just, I feel like we're all just so afraid, and I'll paint with a broad stroke in this moment, because I feel like even those of us that are working really hard at doing better still have moments of this. And it's just like, we all would love to just gloss over a situation and make it better for our friends, our families, our loved ones, our communities, whatever. But that's almost never what anyone needs. It's never what anyone needs. It's never what anyone wants. And it's only going to make children especially, feel more alone in their feelings if you don't let them know that it's normal, if you don't let them feel and experience it, and just be there with them as they experience it.
Right.
So,
I mean, you've heard me say this before, but like, there needs to be so much more education on grief and how to navigate grief. Because even as a grown up, I felt super alone in my grief, right? Because people don't know how to handle it. And so it's so easy to want to just help others, because it's like, no one even understands my grief. So why am I going to sit around and talk to people if they don't understand, when I can just go help others with it? Because I understand, right? So I totally get that, why people want to help others. And I think it's great you want to help others. But there needs to be that balance where you give yourself permission or a chance to companion yourself through it. Right. But anyway, I mean, I could talk about grief forever. So Becky, I so appreciate you talking about grief, because I'm definitely passionate about bringing way more awareness to grief. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I've thought way more about grief, only mostly because of you. Because I mean, and because you speak so passionately about it, because, because of your you're my good friend, and the loss that you experienced not that long ago, right?
Yeah.
And so and you approach a subject with such an openness and a kindness to other people that maybe aren't listening, or that you believe that they're doing their best, but anyway, I'm not
They
really
could do
sure what I
better.
want to say here. Yeah, I didn't want to say that because, well, I mean, we could all do better, period.
We could. Mhm.
But what I mean is, and I'm struggling to say it well, I just feel like I've said it to you before. I'm grateful that you're the kind of person that didn't just take maybe the way people treated you after your dad died,
Mhm.
and shut them off or stop talking to them because they didn't respond to you in a way that was helpful or supportive. Instead, you told them what you needed.
Yes.
And you were kind and honest about it without
Right.
being like, well, I'm just going to turn away from you now because clearly you don't get it. Right.
Right.
You had a level of empathy yourself, even as the one that experienced the struggle, to say like, hey, everyone's having a hard time with this. I didn't used to know how to handle it either. And so like, what can I do to educate? Right. It's like, it's still that vicious cycle too. It's like, is it on you to educate? No, but you're still taking that role a little bit, right? Because it's like, at the end of the day, you want more people to be more informed about how to talk to people or hold space for them in their grief.
Totally.
Right. And so it's a weird balance to strike for anyone that's suffering or struggling with not just grief, but with anything, right? Trying to explain my anxiety to people is really exhausting. I wish people would just learn about it themselves and just have a better understanding of how to talk to me. But that isn't necessarily the case, right? And people aren't going to necessarily come to you with that. And so anyway, getting off, but my final takeaway. Yeah. Go ahead. No.
I was going to say, now we can say anxiety is a shapeshifter, and there's something called Google.
Here you go.
Now we've
Breaking
led you
news.
in the path to understand anxiety.
Breaking news. My final takeaway is a quick one. It was just at the end there when she offered herself that advice of just like letting herself show up and shine fully, but also doing it imperfectly.
Yes.
Like that should be our motto for life. Forget about our younger selves. That should be everyone's motto from this moment on, is just showing up authentically, showing up as yourself, and do it imperfectly. And you deserve to do it imperfectly and take up that space. It's yours.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that was there in the heart. Like,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Becky, for being a guest on our show. Warriors, if you'd like to connect with us for any reason, join our Instagram fam. We're at Anxiety Warriors Podcast. Or you can feel free to shoot us an email at anxietywarriorspodcast@gmail.com. You can shout out your wins of the week, big or small. You can share any topic ideas you have for us, things you'd love to hear us chat about. Let us know. Or if you think you would be an amazing guest on our show, you have an anxiety warrior journey that you'd love to share, also let us know. Hit us up on Instagram or shoot us an email. Take a moment and smash that 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you're tuning in. You can like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. All of our episodes are uploaded for you over there. And if you're feeling extra generous around this time of year, you can grab yourself some Anxiety Warrior swag at our link. I always want to say link in bio because it's what I'm used to saying on Instagram. At our link in our show notes, you can hop on into our Threadless merch shop and grab yourself some Anxiety Warriors swag.
Woo! Woo! What a mouthful. You did it. I was impressed. Nailed it. Anyway, thank you all so much for going on this journey with us. We are so grateful that we get to do this with you all.
Till next time.